in the bottom there.
So we'll see something talking about the germ versus terrain theory. Derek Henry. And it's founder of
Healing the Body.
Healing the Body and Thrive Academy.
Thrive Lifestyle Academy.
Thrive Lifestyle Academy. Sorry. Okay, we're going live.
All right.
Oh. Ha, I spelled theory wrong. Are you able to see on your end?
I will be eventually because I got my phone ready here. It should tell me when you come on, but I can't see anything else though.
I think it's still buffering, previewing.
It takes a second to, yeah. Not yet.
Does it usually take that long?
It could sometimes take like 30 seconds. From what I remember. I've often been on the receiving end. You're able to do the go live thing and then it went on?
No, I'm going, it says add title, go live anywhere. Can we just do that? It looks like we're going. It's
Yep.
We're there?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to start this party.
Yay. Hey, everybody. This is our first Zoom to live. So this is really exciting. It's always great when it works. This is my friend. This is my friend, Derek Henry, and he is the founder of Healing the Body and Thrive Lifestyle Academy. So he has actually healed himself from 13 chronic diseases, and he is a lifestyle coach and health coach for hundreds of people. He's helped thousands of people like get their life back. And he is the perfect person to talk about this terrain versus germ theory, because, you know, here he was, the same person with 13 chronic diseases, and he's here today as healthy as anything. And what we kind of want to just convey tonight is to take away some fears and to just really go into the facts. And really, when we understand the body, the more we know, the less fear we have. And so I'm hoping to kind of convey some of that to you tonight by just jumping into this germ versus terrain theory. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrea Abert, and I'm an advocate for a better way. So I'm always looking for truth, a better way to do things, and you name it. So Derek, thank you so much for being with me tonight.
Thank you, Andrea. This is good stuff. I love bringing this stuff together because we know out there right now that there's plenty of fear. And for a lot of people, you know, depending what you see, legitimate for people to be fearful of based on what we're being communicated from the media and from other people. But as you mentioned, and I've mentioned this before, I've said this for a lot of years because of what I went through. I have zero fear of disease, let alone a virus. That's personally me. That doesn't mean that no one else can't be legitimate with their fears, but I want to make sure everyone understands what's going on, and we make sure we get this across tonight, that people are in a maybe a bit more centered place and calm place when they start to understand what the real threat is out there, what this is all about. Coming from someone who, again, there's zero fear in me of the coronavirus or any other disease, because when you've been where I've been, as dark as it's been, when you're as young as 30 years old and you come back from it and you see what the human body's capable of, then that darkness is no longer holds over you. So I'm fortunate to have had that experience I would never go back and have that experience again. But I was fortunate enough to have it and now come out the other side and be able to help other people come through those things. And it's going to be fun talking about this germ versus terrain theory tonight.
That's so cool. Let's jump right into the beginning. Let's go back to Pasteur and Bertrand and Duchamp and their theories. So if we go all the way back, and this is what 1860, and we have two opposing theories at the exact same time. And one of those theories we adopted today, which is the germ theory, and that's what we're going to get into. And the other, but what I found fascinating, and I didn't realize this actually, was we are 160 years later, and it's still a theory, meaning it's never been proven. So can you kind of go into those two thoughts and kind of just let people know like what these two opposing thoughts are?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do a bit of a thumbnail sketch just to make it kind of really easy because it doesn't have to be too complicated. So as you mentioned, Pasteur was, I believe, the person originally, or at least he was one of the bigger names accredited to this germ theory. And it was all around that basically germ created the disease. The germ was the problem. And of course, this is something that obviously most people still believe today, that the germ is the problem. The germ is what caused the disease. The germ is what causes the death. And there's a bit of, I don't want to call it sleight of hand, but there's a few details in there that we definitely need to understand when it comes to the germ. And of course, the terrain theory was more around that it's not the germ that actually triggers the disease. It's the state of someone's terrain, or you can call it your inner ecology or the state of your immune system, whatever you want to call it. And when we're dealing with something that has been as well blasted, I guess, over the internet, over the mainstream media of this germ, and that this germ, if you're not careful, is going to kill you. And of course, we understand that some people could fall victim to this virus. There's no doubt about that. There are people that could fall victim to a virus or bacteria that have been going on outside of our bodies for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And we all know that we build immunity even through association with these germs. We can build immunity to them, just like everyone may understand there's certain diseases that we may not, there's certain communicable disease that we can build up immunity to. So going back to the germ theory, which Pasteur had communicated to us, was that if you were infected by a germ, that this was going to cause, that you were going to have either sickness, disease, or possibly death. And say it again.
It's going to attack you essentially.
Right, exactly. That was the problem. And then the terrain theory, again, as we discussed, was and this is where it becomes really important these days, because everyone's thinking that if you are going to get infected by the COVID-19 or whatever germ it is that out there, that you're going to have, that there's a very likelihood that you're going to have a bunch of symptoms and then possibly kill you. And I'm here to tell people that could this happen to people? And has it happened to people? Reportedly, yes, it has. But what most people aren't talking about is the fact that the terrain is really where it's at. Pasteur actually reportedly recanted on his deathbed and said it actually isn't the germ that causes the disease. It's the milieu, or what we call the terrain. So that goes back to a lot of people would understand the immune system and your inner terrain and how it's operating, and ultimately how that strengthens your immune system is going to determine whether this germ comes into your body and creates mild symptoms, severe symptoms, death, or no symptoms at all. And your body simply sloughs it out. And a lot of people are going to go through that, where they're going to have the coronavirus and they're not even going to know that it ever happened, because it's going to go right through their body and their body's going to eliminate it because they've got a strong immune system. This is probably why we're seeing more reports of older people that are immune compromised. Their immune systems aren't working in a legitimate way. And there's other things that these people that are dying have other, what they might call comorbidities or underlying issues. So in the end, the germ for them, this is the trigger. That's what the germ really is. It's the trigger. Could it cause other issues? Yes, it could, because it can trigger other issues that are inside your body depending on what else is going on. But if you have a strong immune system and there's nothing there for it to trigger and cause more issues, then again, your body's going to simply dispatch it and remove it from your body. I know this better than anybody. I had a rough terrain at age 30 when I had those 13 chronic disease conditions. And most people would tell me there's no way out. But I didn't believe that. And I went on, and I didn't, at the time, I wasn't trying to necessarily clean up my terrain. I didn't even know what that meant. I was just trying to improve my health. But over time, that's what I did. I improved my terrain to a point where I overcame all these diseases. Not only that, I honestly don't even remember the last time that I got sick. and I'm not avoiding germs. I'm not living in a bubble. I'm out in the public like everyone else is, touching things. Probably even the worst, we're touching my face, things like all those things that people may do that could cause issues. I'm doing this all the time. And for some reason, I don't come down with sickness. So why am I any more special than anyone else? The answer is I'm not any more special than anyone else. We all have these systems. We just got to learn how to develop and build them in order to keep us mostly protected, because there's no guarantees in life out there. There's always risks. But if you protect yourself and build your immune system, you've given yourself the best coat of armor you can have for coronavirus or any other virus, bacteria, or chronic disease.
Do you know, I have a question then. I'd like to kind of go into what kind of solutions were you given when you went with these chronic diseases? Could they even name them? Could they diagnose them? Were they giving tests? What were the solutions, just quickly? Because I was looking, as I was researching this, I was seeing that, you know, mainstream medicine, because it's based on the germ theory that's never been proven, our mainstream medicine. And so their whole premises here is to kill the germ. And so that's why we use antibiotics. That's why we use radiation. That's why we use chemotherapy. That's why we do like the drugs and all those sorts of things. Or we do surgery. We just kill it by removing it, right? The other one, I loved it because it was so much more complex. It wasn't even just about nutrition, but it's that when you really get into it, you're looking at the nutritional, the electrical, the structural, the toxicological, and the biological aspects of the body. You're looking at the whole human. And that Bouchard was saying that we don't treat the disease, we treat the person. So I would love to know, like, what were you told when you had these 13 issues, these autoimmune or chronic issues you were dealing with? And then how did you decide to go on your own? And then how did you change your terrain to make your body like not inhospitable to these disease states?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what their response was basically to go to war with what was going on, which is what we come and do, and on a global scale, and even on when we look to repair things in our bodies, it's really what we're given from conventional medicine is just go to war with your body. It's basically what we're doing. We're not trying to heal the body. We're going to war with it. Anytime you're giving a prescription medication, anything like that, you're going to war with your body, not really helping the body overcome the issue. So their answer was, this is your disease. And the official diagnosis that I officially got in the beginning was rheumatoid arthritis, is what they told me. And here's your pills. That's it. End of conversation. Rheumatoid arthritis, right? This is what you'll have to take. That's it. That was it. I mean, I'm sure many people are familiar with this, right? This is a very, very common thing. You got 7 minutes, and I had some blood work and stuff before that, and that was it. You have rheumatoid arthritis, and this will help with the pain, and check you later. So I didn't know what to do at the time, because I didn't know anything about any of these things. This was all new to me. This is back in 2005. 15 years ago. And when that happened to me, I didn't even know what to do. And I didn't do anything, to be honest. Did I take the medications? I did a little bit, but I was scared of what was happening. I was legitimately scared of what was happening inside of my body, not knowing what was going on. And this is before I even knew any of this stuff, just something intuitive. Like, I just don't want to take some medication, but I was in so much pain. It felt like my body was completely burning the ground. So I didn't have any choice really but to take it, otherwise go insane. So I was taking it on and off, but then, they tried different medications. Some worked, some actually made me feel worse. So, but I went on like that for it was about a year and a half. I went on like that, just managing this, like a lot of people are. And then I was fortunate enough to find a massage therapist, which helped alleviate some of the issues, started to loosen up because my muscles were extremely tight. My whole body felt like it was just muscles just contracted 24/7, that kind of pain. So she was able to work some things out, but I knew it wasn't enough. It wasn't addressing a lot of things, but it helped take a little bit of the edge off. And then it wasn't until 2017, September 2017, that I was sent an article on broccoli, believe it or not. That was my genesis moment, an article on broccoli. It was sent to me because someone was at the time in the family was dying from cancer, and it said that broccoli could help, heal cancer. This was completely new to me, but I was a very open person. I'm like, really interesting. So I sent in and I started reading this article. I'm like, this is fascinating. And then I went down the rabbit hole. That was the rabbit hole for me. So then I started going to this site and I started reading, researching on nutrition, all this kind of stuff. And I believed all of it. I'm like, yeah, this could help. I had no closed-mindedness to any of it. And so when I started, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just started, taking some things out of my house, first of all, right? Removing some toxic, household products and things like the easy stuff in the beginning. And then I started to discover smoothies. So I started to make smoothies on a daily basis. Those were fun. Okay, I feel a little bit better. Then I discovered, green superfood powders with all this nutrition, started putting them in there. Wow, I actually feel better. Then I discovered a natural anti-inflammatory, a red algae that was actually one of the hugest moments of in the initial part of my comeback. And I ended up taking that, and within 6 weeks, I actually came off all medication because it killed enough of the inflammation. I didn't have to worry about it. So I just kept on going down that road. That was the start. And I started, eating more salads, and I started eating more whole foods, and I started to, drink less alcohol. I was young at the time, and I was still drinking, from time to time. I started to drink less of that. I just started to really hone it in. It took me a long time, though, to bring it all together. I mean, the Thrive Lifestyle Academy is the program where I brought that 10 years together. But at the time, I was just working through it. Like, I didn't know what the next step was. I was just hopeful that there was a next step. But I did that for like 2 or 3 years. And after 3 years, I felt relatively normal. And so I think a lot of what I did, how I redeveloped that terrain accidentally, let's say, because I didn't know what I was doing at the time, was that I ate a lot of hydrating foods, lots of fruits and vegetables, and lots of herbs and supplements as well that had a high level of nutrition and also had high antibacterial, antiviral, antiparasitical, and antifungal properties. And as I continue to move those through my body, because this obviously would help with a lot of biological infections, right? If they're if we have bacteria and virus in our body, or parasites and fungus, and that's the main issues, then you just need to go the anti-route and start to clear them out naturally, rather than going, the traditional route of prescribed antibiotics, which I never did take. So as I did that, that's when my terrain started to redevelop. I started to slough this stuff out. I started to build up my good bacteria in my body. So the probiotics, as most people would know it, I started to build that up, it started to slough out the bad bacteria and the viruses. And once that started to happen, I started to get the nutrition right. Everything started to change. And for me, if you want to simplify it, because that's a short story. There's a lot of different ways that you can redevelop your terrain, but there's only really 2 reasons that people are sick, if you really want to narrow it down. And it's because of toxic burden, first of all, and usually infections, often viral and bacterial, and then chemical infections like heavy metals.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with EMFs now, but heavy metals is a huge one, and glyphosate would be another big one, right? I call those chemical infections. Those and commingling with the biological infections that a lot of us have, but we don't know we have them. That's the first thing. That's the one factor. The second factor is malnourishment. And usually the two go together. Once you have a toxicity, your body is burning through resources, then you become nutrient deficient. So those are only 2 reasons that people usually get sick: infections of the chemical and biological kind, and malnourishment. You get those 2 things sorted out, and sometimes it's not just as easy as just taking a bunch of things that's going to sort itself out. There's going to be detox symptoms, there's going to be cleansing, there's going to be things you're going to have to work around that takes a little bit of, as a good Canadian would say, a little bit of stick handling. We got to stick a handle around these things. But that, and if you want to look at it from a simple standpoint, you want to understand this in a basic manner, because there's a lot of information out there, and people, it's tough when you're in the forest, you can't see the trees and back away from what it is. That's what all disease is going to stem from. And if you build up that immune system, as I said, and you build up your terrain, you make it very inhospitable to any of these things, including the coronavirus, to be taken over your body and causing any further issues.
I love that. I would kind of like, I have so many thoughts in my head right now. I want to talk about different areas in history where, for example, like the Spanish flu, when that wiped out so many millions, and kind of take away the mystique from that too. But that would be a good thing for another conversation. But there's definitely, I was going down that rabbit hole recently, and I was like, there's a lot of theories of why that went down, and that would kind of also take away the fear that this is going to happen again. But I would also, one thing I'm finding that's really fascinating is, as we find that the germ theory has never been proven again and again and again, we're finding that the opposite, that the terrain, that the environment of the body has been proven more and more. And so it's fascinating because, as even back in 2005, I think on PubMed.gov, which is where I love to go for resources, they had only like 25 studies on oxidative stress. And now today there's like 225,000, and they're coming up with more all the time. And what they're finding is that the underlying cause of disease is the same thing in everything. It's just developing different in different people's body, but that it's this oxidative state in our body, which is a bad terrain in our body, is now manifesting disease. And so if you can get rid of the oxidative stress, it goes away. And I love, like, Dr. Zach Bush is another one I follow, and he talks about, well, 2 things he says that I love. He says, there are 10 to the, and I can't say this enough, there are 10 to the 31 viruses out there in the world. Like, there's so little, they're floating everywhere, they're inside us. If you break down our own body, we're these tiny little molecules that, we break down into really tiny parts as well. And he's like, if they were going to attack us, we would be dead right after we were created. We wouldn't have made it this far. Yep. And then another thing he says is, just I remember him saying that, and this is when he went to more natural medicine because he actually had some things to do with developing chemotherapy actually. And so he was looking at one patient's cancer papers under on a microscopic level, and then he was looking at another patient's diabetes. And when he really got down to a microscopic level, he was like, "It's the same thing. It's the same. Like it's just hostile terrain in both of them, manifesting in different ways because they're unbalanced in again different ways." So it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah,
You,
go ahead.
no, you finish your thought. I was going to actually ask if you had like what advice you would give to someone who's just worried, like worried today about a virus or what they could do to fortify themselves because the media is not giving us any tools. The media is just saying, oh my gosh, hospitals are out, we don't have enough masks, and oh my gosh, and this and that, and stay away from each other, avoid each other. But they're not really saying anything positive. And then when we're finding positive studies like intravenous vitamin C, for example, that gets shut down immediately. Companies like mine get FDA warnings that we cannot say anything to even suggest that what we have could help with coronavirus or any other issue. You just
Yeah.
can't say anything today, so you're kind of hand strapped.
Yeah, absolutely. I even saw something today about there was a very big worry from health officials that there was a homemade hand sanitizer that was circulating the internet. I'm like, oh no, a homemade hand sanitizer. Wow, we're in trouble now. I mean, it's just unbelievable the way they attack some of these things. And that's not to say that every hand sanitizer that's put on the internet is necessarily effective. But the whole point is they don't even allow us to think for ourselves and think that we can actually, protect ourselves. Some of us do know. I mean, I would make a homemade hand sanitizer if I knew how. I mean, I use essential oils and some water. Simple as that. The ones, and it's simple. It's like, really, this is what you're going to deter people from. What I wanted to say before, I talk more about what we can actually do is what I was going to build on your point was this is a thing. There is, I don't know how many, there's probably hundreds of thousands of disease labels. I don't even know what they're up to now. Every time a new disease level comes out, I kind of morbidly laugh to myself that who came up with this new label? Because a lot of these labels are just named after people who found this disease. Hashimoto's disease was found by a gentleman whose last name was Hashimoto. And it sounds all mysterious, and then it sounds unique, and it makes a person sound like they got this unique disease that they need a very specific doctor to be able to figure it out. And none of that is true. Now, like you said, to the same degree, a lot of it, I just told you what the main issues are with people that have disease, but they manifest themselves in different ways. So if you have joint pain, they'll call it arthritis, or if you have migraines, they'll call it something else. Or I mean, even for mine, for example, I could have been labeled with probably 55 different labels if they wanted to. The whole point being is that we're all chasing the symptoms. We're chasing these different disease labels. And really, if you want to boil it down, why don't they just say it's your thyroid's not functioning properly, or you have a parasite infection? That's the problem. Rather than calling a parasite infection, it could be rheumatoid arthritis, or it could be skin disease, or maybe you have a viral infection that could be thyroid problems, or could be pancreas problems, or give you liver problems, kidney disease, because these things can all cause the same thing. It depends where they manifest, maybe where a weak spot is. Maybe it might be depending on what your genetic structure is. You may have a few weak points, and the weak points may be the ones that are attacked that cause that particular symptom in you. So it's not really that the disease isn't really that much different from everybody. It manifests itself in different ways, and they've given it titles or labels, as I call it. So, I mean, I always want to make sure people understand this, because this is really important, that all of us that have been sick, even when I had 13 different chronic disease condition labels, it all stemmed from the same thing. It was for me, it was a chronic chemical infection and a chronic biological infection. And then nutrient deficiency came on, and then it all blew up in my face. That's what they should have explained it to me as. But no, they give me this label, and then all these other labels start to come up.
I
And
don't think
it just makes it mysterious and just confuses people, makes them become enslaved because they don't know what else to do, and not the fault of their own, because we haven't been educated about this stuff. So you have to listen to the person who's giving this information the best you know how, but you're taking down a road that's not going to solve the problem, because they're addressing symptoms. As you said before, that the body, you said something else about the body healing itself. For me, the symptoms are just satellites. There's about 4 or 5 things deeper than that started that whole cascade of dominoes. And you going after the joint pain, yes, we want people not to have joint pain and have inflammation because it hurts. But the same breath, if you're just going after the joint pain by taking turmeric or something, for example, that's fine. You take care of that, but you're not going after what the source was. If you go after the source, then all the other stuff eliminates itself. You got to eliminate the mothership, as I always say, and all their little ships that have went out and caused you issues in different areas. So it is all about how does the disease manifest, and it manifests for people in a different way, probably based on genetics, their weak spots, maybe where some of these viruses end up, and then they just call it so many different things and just confuses everybody and doesn't empower them whatsoever. So I agree with you on that one. And but what can people do? I mean, all we've been told is load up on hand sanitizer and isolate yourself. That's it.
I will not. In fact, we were told at our co-op, like, you cannot use the school unless you use the hand sanitizer before you go in. And it's this crappy sanitizer.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything. I should have brought oils, what I should have done. But I was like, I'm not putting that on my kids, and I'm not putting it on myself.
It's an alcohol-based solution for the most part, and if you put it on your hands and things like that, there's things like, a lot of people will be familiar with skincare products, that what you put on your skin, that lets it in, that's just as good as, actually it's worse than eating it, because when you eat it, at least it goes through a detoxification process when it goes through your system. But when it goes through your skin, it goes right in, and then you eliminate that whole process. That's the first problem. Second problem is you kill things like, we have microbiomes. We even have little microbiomes in our hand, the delicate bacteria there. So it's not that if you're out and you're concerned that you can't sanitize, but watch what you're sanitizing with. And is that really the answer? To me, that's a really, it's a weak way for us to try to defend ourselves. Quarantining, yeah, of course, if you quarantine and you don't run into other people, but what I hope is that after this is all over, and it will be over, and I think it's going to be over in a way that people are going to look back at it and probably say, okay, that wasn't as big of a deal as maybe they projected it to be, because this is all based on projections. And some of these projection, the models we've seen are gross in terms of how outdated they are in terms of how they projected this and how little it could actually be. So there's lots of information flying around right now, of course. But due to those projections, and obviously us being quarantined now as a result of that, we have to start to understand some other effects that are going to happen because of that. But that all being said, I would hope that when this is done, that people would understand that, okay, this is an opportunity for me to take care of myself. So what do you do now? If you're concerned about a virus out there right now, and if you're concerned about a virus now, what I want to say is you should always be concerned about viruses then and bacteria, because it's not going to go away when the coronavirus mysteriously goes away. Whatever happens, they don't talk about it anymore, so it's out of sight, out of mind. There's going to be other viruses and bacteria, as we discussed, and they haven't killed us outright yet. Otherwise, we'd all be dead. So people are doing things, obviously, that to thwart these viruses off, and when they do interact with them, remove them from their body. But this is what the media doesn't tell us. First of all, they don't tell us what to avoid. They don't tell us what to avoid, because when you're doing something like this, if you really want to do the best plan for yourself, it's about avoidance of certain foods. They're not going to help your terrain, and they're actually going to feed viruses. And there's going to be things that you could do that will be more, we'll call antiviral, immune building. So when's the last time that you heard the media tell us to cut out processed sugar? Or maybe we should cut out some conventional dairy. Maybe we should cut out some gluten. Or maybe we should even cut out the fear, because fear actually feeds viruses. That hormonal surge feeds viruses. Even things like, this will be a little bit lesser known, but even things like eggs can feed very, very effective for feeding viruses. And so when we talk about all these things, why aren't we talking about the things that we should avoid? Even here's another big one, and these stores have all remained open: alcohol. And I realize everyone wants to have, and I'm not judging people who are drinking alcohol, but the whole point is alcohol is suppressing the immune system, and it's not helpful at all, and actually only makes you more hospitable to these things. So why aren't we shutting down the alcohol stores? As far as I know, they're still considered an essential service, and they're still open, right? So that's the first half. Then the second half, why aren't they telling us about the antivirals that we could consume, right? We've got turmeric, we even got teas like licorice root, lemon balm, lavender even is very effective, chamomile. We've got garlic. No one's talking about that. We've got vitamin C. No one's talking about that either. We have all these different things that people aren't talking about. And as you said, even suppressed in some cases, right? Vitamin C, take it down. No, vitamin C can't help. So they haven't given us either one of those things. And I have a large list of things. I've got antiviral smoothies that I'm trying to help people with that have a lot of different things in them, like even blueberries, spirulina, ground fennel, things like that you can put in a smoothie that you can consume on a day-to-day basis and be more protected than anyone else. So my point is, why are they not telling us any of this stuff? Are they trying to keep something from us? Or is it because they're in contract with pharmaceutical companies or other companies that doesn't allow them to say those things? You tell me, Andrea, what's happening out there? And I got a little one here with me right now that apparently...
I think we should be very proud of ourselves. We were actually saying before this, we have 9 children between the two of us. Hi.
Yes, and you've got the majority, so...
Well, mine would come in crying right now. They gave it up, so this is great. I love that. And actually, guys, what I would love to do is have Derek come back on and just like tell us like I was saying like once you know that someone eats healthy, I think everyone immediately has questions like, what does that even mean? What is healthy eating? Because we all have such a wide like for someone they think they're eating healthy if they have a diet coke because it's diet. Like everyone's everywhere across the board. Um, and some people are thinking they're doing well. So I thought it'd be really fun to have him come back on and just kind of show us like what a day in his like what he eats in a day and kind of help us. And then I was thinking of just like some baby steps for people who aren't there yet, just little baby steps that we can do that we'll talk about next time that we can tackle one by one and, until they're a non-issue, and then go to the next step and then go to the next step. It's a process.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I did it. I didn't, when I talk about these things today, this is 13 years of me incessantly researching, experimenting with my own body, obviously overcoming numerous diseases and serious ones, not just something like a little bit of skin disease. I mean, that can be serious too, but we're talking about serious stuff. Like if I wasn't going to change my life, I was literally going to die at a very young age. I never feared that I was going to die, but looking back, I'm like, I was in big, big, big trouble. So when you go through that, the whole point is when you go through that experience, you learn a lot. And that's the difference that I call between, I read a lot. I read 3,500 hours of different research over that period, that 5 years. I call that knowledge. Mm-hmm. But I also had that experience, and that experience has actually granted me the wisdom to understand the body in a way that you can't just get from reading books. I mean, you would know this as well yourself. Anything that you're doing, and you get better. When someone tells you that, yeah, this product or this thing works this way, you're like, okay, you take their word for it, but you don't really know. But then when you actually take that and you put it in your body and you feel it, that's knowing. That's wisdom. There's a knowing now there that no one else can tell you any different. Just like people can't tell me that rheumatoid arthritis isn't curable. You can't tell me that, because I did it and I've done it for other people. So you can't tell me, because there's a knowing there. So I'm not guessing, reading books and on theory that you can or cannot, heal this disease. I don't have to guess. I already know that it's there. But it took a long time for me to figure all this stuff out. And it took me a long time to go through all these processes. And it was step by step. I didn't go from A to Z. As I told you, I started cutting some things out and I started drinking a smoothie. Even that, I mean, if anyone can even start with a proper smoothie and you put it together properly, that will make a big difference in your life. Just starting that alone. So, I mean, it would be awesome to talk about that stuff because, again, this is not stuff you're going to get through the mainstream media. And I want to make sure everyone understands, from my perspective anyway, the reason I'm so centered and calm about this, because I have been the whole time, is for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's just kind of my nature. I don't get too excited about stuff. I don't get panicky things. It's just not what I do. Number one. Number two, like I said, when you've been to the dark place I've been, the coronavirus looks like nothing to me. I'm thinking to myself, coronavirus on the worst day was 108 people. And again, this is by no way trying to dumb down that there's some people that have lost their lives because of this. This has nothing to do with that. This is about perspective is what this is about. So on that same day of 108 people, whatever it was at that time, that passed away from, and this is reported, this is numbers we're getting. So we don't even know exactly how this is all going, what those numbers are actually like. The same day, 26,000 people died from cancer. Why aren't we talking about that every day? Why aren't we talking about what's happening there? Why isn't that an epidemic? For me, it is an epidemic. And it's not communicable. That's not the point. We're not talking about that. We're talking about there's some big things out there. There's 1,300 people dying a day at the hands of other humans. Why aren't we talking about that epidemic? There's so many different things that are so big that it came way before this, but we're not. Why aren't we talking about it? Because the news media and the outlets don't talk to us about them. They don't talk about how they're an epidemic. They're not talking to us about these numbers, but they bring this up and blow it up, and now it's in our face. And so now we're fearful. And I can understand why people are fearful. If you've never seen something, never overcome something, don't know what to do, I completely understand that. But I'm here to help. If you don't want to be fearful and you want to be aware, but not scared, that's my purpose, is to dumb it down for you in a way that you're aware of what's going on. You're not scared. You protect yourself as best as you can, because we know that fear is going to feed the virus anyway. And for me, even if it was an epidemic, I wouldn't go down like that. I wouldn't go down in fear. I'd go down laughing with my kids or whatever it is that I had to do. That's the way I would, because that's just my personal thing. I'm not going to go down in fear to a system or something like that. That's just the way that I operate. So some people may not appreciate that, but for the people that do want to be aware and not scared and not fearful and understand how to take care of themselves and be the primary, physician, let's say, in your home, just like grandma used to be, don't need to go to the doctor for an antibiotic, drink grandma's cough syrup. She knew what was going on. I did the same thing with my kids. My kids never went anywhere for anything because I got a homemade antibiotic tonic that they'll toss back. They never had to go anywhere because I fix them at home like that every time. And I know the hospital is useful for some things, but not for most of the things that I need them for. Unless it's stitches or broken something, I don't take them there. And I want more people to understand this. So, because I don't think anyone actually wants to go to the hospital if they could take care of themselves
We
at
should
home.
talk some time about wellness checkups and how that's so unnecessary.
Yeah,
um,
right.
do you know, I wanted to kind of wrap it up here and just reiterate what you just said about the knowing, right? The experience in Germany. And this is the really cool thing about different languages. My husband is from Germany, he's from Berlin. They have the learning is kind of divided, like they have two words for it and they have two totally different meanings. And they're both very important for the children. So one is called, I forget what it's called, but they have something called kinetic learning. And it means like they go out, like they want the children to experience, to not just learn about a concept on paper, but then they actually have this second knowledge where they go out. So if it's carpentry, that they're holding wood and they're touching it and they're going out and they're experiencing it and they're feeling it and they're, you know, they're going through those motions and they, so it can really become part of them, you know?
Yeah,
So
I love that.
thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope that helps some people, and we're definitely going to collaborate again and have some more value we'd love to bring to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody, if there is anything specific that people are concerned about or want to know more to protect themselves, then that you and I can discuss even later, we can take those ideas in, just put them below in the
Yeah.
comments or whatever, and we can do that, and we can bring whatever it is that you're looking for this time, because I know different people are looking for different things. But I'm more than happy to come on here again, Andrea, and let's have these conversations and continue to empower people to take care of themselves.
I would love that. Thank you so much for being here. Your kids were so good.
Thank you.
What is your youngest name?
Presley.
Presley. Okay, she's so doll. She's such a darling. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn this off now.
Awesome.
Take
Thanks,
care. Have a
Andrea.
good night.